Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm doing this backwards. So I'm going to show you the tools and materials that I usually use to do Kote Tenouchi, the palms. So I'm going to start with materials. This is what I usually use, and it's something that I can get here in Thailand, and it's just chamois, right? Now, here it is here, if you can see. If you can get it to focus. It's nice, actually. It's thin to like. I don't know the material. It could be, I don't think it's deer skin. It could be lamb or goat skin maybe. But I find it works really well. In the past I've used deer skin as much as I can, and moose hide actually. Back in Toronto, in Canada, I used commercially tanned deer hides and moose hides. They work okay. And I've also tanned my own deer skins, you know, like that I hunted and stuff, and tanned them traditionally with the brain tanning and smoke tanning and stuff. And of course that's the best stuff, but that's a lot of work, and you gotta be somewhere where you can hunt deer. Anyway, but it's also a very deep process, of course. So what am I gonna do now I'm in Thailand, right? Not hunting deer. So I use this stuff a lot, and I find it very good. These are my really nice kote. They're stuffed with deer hair and really traditional. And you can see, this is the stuff, this is the same stuff. It's blued only because of the isomi dye on the boku. And I can't remember when I did these, but it was at least a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And they're holding up great. And I actually have these on the kote I use most of the time that I leave at the dojo in Chiang Mai. I use that most of the time, but and that's also around the same time and holding up very well. So I find it great. There's a fellow at our dojo who's found a source in China. It sounds like it's deer hide. Anyway, we might order some and I'll check it out. And I mean, deer hide's great, right? Because it's fantastic for moccasins. It's totally different than cowhide. It can get wet. It might be a little stiff when it's dry, but you can just rub it, like do this, and it should soften up, you know? Typically, that would be smoke tanned, right? But these days, I see that in Kendo Kote, you can get white deer skin. So it's some process that allows it to stay soft, right? Because typically, if you're doing your own deer skin tanning, like brain tanning, but when it's white, that's just in its raw state, right? And it can be really soft, but if it gets wet, it goes back into rawhide. So there's some process going on. However, on the video that I made about replacing the Tenouchi, and also at the end of it, there'll be like a patch thing I'll put at the end. I'm using this stuff. Now it looks like smoke tanned deer hide, but it ain't that stuff. This stuff is a synthetic. It was at Lana Kendo. It's thick. Doesn't feel good. Probably won't stretch to mold to your hands very well. However, for the lovely person I was doing those kote for, his skin chemistry was wrecking the leather, right? Just went out really quick. So we're trying this stuff and see how it goes. I think it'll be good. So there are a lot of synthetic materials that a lot of Kendo bogu companies use, right? Like usually it would be cheaper because deer skin is expensive, but the synthetics are pretty good actually. I think the kote I have at the dojo is a Kendo Star Vanguard, and they had the synthetic palms actually, and they lasted quite a while. And I just replaced it with this chamois, with whatever this is, myself. So now I have leather palms. Anyway, so that's that. Next, I will just show you the tools that I typically use. Pretty simple. Yeah. Okay, hang on a sec. Okay, here we go. I've laid out the tools I mostly use. Are we in focus? Focus. I'll just go by them one by one. Here are a couple of awls, okay? This one is a really beautiful, proper awl for leather work. It has a chisel point which means it's like a three-sided point that cuts into leather really well. I use this one probably more than anything. It's great for starting holes if I'm punching through, sewing the tenouchi up if it's through a really tough bit, and then the needle won't go through. But there are these awls too. Do you see that hole? See, there's a hole in the needle, right? And what you can do, you can use that. Back home, they have this thing called a speedy stitcher. But you can use it and it works kind of like a sewing machine, right? On the other Kote palms I was doing, I was creating a hole with this and then using a needle from both sides. I think that's probably the best, but it's more time consuming and slow. Okay, I almost always use a thimble. Highly recommend. It's hard to get really nice thimbles these days. But this one's okay. And also, if it's really tough going, you can use one of these rubber finger things they use for counting paper and stuff. And that's a great way to grab onto the needle. Here's a scalpel. I think it's a number 11 blade. Where are they? Here we go. The blades just pop off, right? And you can replace them. I replace them a lot. As soon as they start to get even a tiny bit dull, I just replace them. They're not expensive, the blades. And these pointy little scissors are good. Pointy scissors are good. You can get them. This large needle I use a lot because it's easy to grab and that. But you can also get, this is a Glover's needle. And what it is, it has a chisel point similar to this, okay? It's a pretty thin needle, and to tell you the truth, it's not really the best Glover's needle ever used. So that's partly why I don't use it much. But if you can get good Glover's needles, they can be really useful. Because what happens is, if you just put a round needle through the leather, the leather kind of grabs around it, you know? And it becomes hard to go to push through. Whereas the Glover's needle, because it's the chisel point, it cuts the leather, right? So it works really well. And these are the threads I'm using mostly right now. They're 0.5 millimeter. One of these is 0.6 millimeter polyester, wax polyester thread. Works fine, looks good. You can use, like this heavy thread's good for the main part of the tenouchi. But, let me grab my kote. But for, okay, back. Anyway, for for sewing on this binding, or whatever the word is in Japanese, I don't know. You can use a finer thread. I think on this one I used a quite fine thread actually. Like maybe I use this stuff. This one here. You can see it's a really thin thread. But it works actually okay because the stitching is close. And anyway, I find it works, hasn't ripped out on me, so. But, you know, it's this. I'm not that happy with this stitching. It's a bit big. You know, it's a bit prominent, right? But it's at least, when you do it that way, it's strong. Okay, so there you go. That's a rough rundown of the materials that I use. If you get into this kind of sewing, for sure there's gonna be stuff that you prefer. Do you know what I mean? So I'd say just whatever works for you is great. But anyway, give you an idea. You don't need a lot of stuff. A really good quality awl. Like this one is, let's see, Ivan brand. Is that backwards? Anyway, it's great. The thing I really like is that it fits in my palm like this. Some of these big awls, like this, I cut this one down actually. But some of the big awls, you kind of have to do this, right? But I really like an awl that fits into your palm. So, hang on. Fits into your palm, nice and tight. So as you're sewing, it's here. You can use your whole palm to push through. Anyway, but you find your own way. Try it out. Probably make mistakes to start with, of course, but that's okay. It's just learning, and learning is great. Okay, so that's that. Anything else? I think now I can edit this whole thing together. And yeah, good luck. If you have any questions, if you're watching this video, want to do your own tenouchi, just ask me questions. I'm totally fine with that. Never a bother. And like to help people. Okay. And you can just send them out to be done. It's just that it'll take a long time and expensive, maybe, probably, all things being relative. But it is a pretty big job, really. I find it really, because I'm sitting, sewing, and and I find it hard on my body at this pace. You know, I'm 68, right? Actually, I'm almost 68 and a half, as we used to say when we were little kids. So I find it a little bit hard to be doing this. Like, I could never do it every day. But anyway, it's satisfying as hell to do, you know? Yeah. Okay, see you later. Oh, okay, so the first part is sewing on the palm, and then at the end I'll add a bit that has just sewing patches on, which is fast and nasty, and it'll do the job, but it won't last that long. If you can do the whole tenouchi, it's much better. Like for me, okay, if I had a little hole here, okay, I might patch it temporarily. But if it's anything even a little bit bigger, I'll just replace the whole palm. But then I can sew it myself. It's free. Okay, see you later. Thanks for watching the video. And here comes the actual tutorial. Crazy video as it is. Greetings. Okay. Oh shoot, where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Hey, how's it going? What am I here doing? I'm here to do a new video on replacing Kote palms, tenouchi, and doing a nasty patch job. Anyway, excuse me. So here's what I do at where I practice Kendo in Chiang Mai, Lana Kendo. The deal I have with the adults there, and actually everyone now, the kids too, is that I will teach them how to fix bogu. I'm not, okay, here's the big caveat. I'm not a bogu fixing professional. I'm a really good sewer and I've done it all my life. I've done wild stuff. So I'm a decent sewer, but I don't do kote palms every day. So if you want a real professional job, send it off to Japan or Korea, wherever. Kendo Star, wherever. They'll do a great job for you. Now, but I can show you how to do it yourself, and it'll be a good job, and it will be depending on your own skill, and the more you do it, the better it gets, of course. So depending on your own skill, it will at least do the job. Do you know what I mean? And if you use good materials, it'll do the job perfectly well. Anyway, so I'm gonna start. This is my introduction. It's a big mess. This whole video is gonna be a big mess like this. Anyway, so, oh, shoot, I'm gonna have to edit this. So the deal I have at Lana is that I will show everyone for free how to fix stuff, or I'll guide them, you know? But if they want me to do it, it's gonna cost. I don't charge a lot of money, but there's a price to be paid. Anyway, here we go. I'm gonna start with this one here. I'm gonna remove the kote palms and chat as I go through it. Hopefully this is helpful to you. If it is, let me know. If you want a new one done, maybe I'll do it in 5 years or something. Okay, here we go. And I'm getting older, so I gotta wear my reading glasses to do this. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna start off. Now I've replaced these kote palms before for this member of Lana Kendo. And what I'm gonna start off with is to use, sorry, it's hard to figure out the lighting here. I need some light to see, but I don't want to overexpose it. So what I'm going to do, there's this trim on decent kote, right? So I'm going to basically trim that. Just take that trim off, and it means picking out these stitches. You have to be a bit careful. I use a scalpel, and I do replace the blades for every new project. Blades are cheap. I think they work great. Anyway. So basically what I'm going to do is just snip all these. Can you see that okay? I'm going to snip these threads. See how sharp they are? Well, they're made for cutting skin, right? So, anyway. So, basically, I'm going to go all the way around, trim these bits off, okay? So it's going to go all the way around. I'm going to cut the video now. I'm going to basically open that all the way up. Okay, so now I'm almost at the end of picking out these stitches. These are all done by hand, by the way. Doesn't matter where your kote are from. As far as I know, this part is always stitched by hand. Okay, so now you can see we've opened up this trim. I'm not sure what you call it in Japanese. This trim over the edge, and you can see. Can you see the? This is the stitching that actually holds the tenouchi, the leather, to the kote palms. Now, for this bogey, let me put the thing. Wait, for this set, the next step is I'm gonna pick out these stitches with the leather. Now, I've already sewn this one. I've repaired this one before, so I'm redoing it. But the problem is, and this is interesting, usually these days I use this, it's a leather I get from Lazada, it's Thai, it's chamois basically. I assume it's goat or sheep or something. I find it works great. Like, I've repaired my own kote and been using it for 2 years, no holes. But this particular member has one hell of a skin chemistry that destroys leather. And I've done repairs all over the place. So what I'm gonna do now for this next one is I'm gonna do this synthetic stuff. It's thick, it's very little stretch in it, so it won't mold your hands much, but for him I think it's gonna work best. I also have a pattern, okay? This is my hand, and we have basically the same size hand, so that's handy. I can use my same pattern. But if you don't, and this is where it gets tricky when you don't do this as a profession, is what I do is I'll take the palm out, lay it flat, and make a pattern of it, and guess where it actually should be. Because over time, if it's deer skin or whatever, the leather is going to stretch, right? I don't know if it's the same for the synthetic, but anyway, it's going to stretch and be distorted, so you have to kind of guess. So there's a lot of guesswork. Anyway, basically, from here, what I'm going to do, see, this is actually already ripping. See, it's so degraded. Okay, so I'm just going to pick this out. Yeah, there we go. And that's pretty quick, right? Can you see that okay? I'm just going to, see how I'm opening this up with both hands? And I'm just going to cut these threads. Now, as a warning, I find on a lot of kote, as soon as you start cutting the palm off, this comes off, right? And the whole thing opens up. So they stitch it all in one shot when they make them. In this set, what I did is I went through and sewed the trim on and then sewed the palm on. So just be careful when you do open that up, it might open everything up. If you're careful, you can keep it more or less intact so that you can re-sew it easily enough. Anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. You see that? It's going through, trim, trim, trim. Okay, so I'm gonna cut the video, trim this down, and be back in a sec. Oh, just to add, if you wanted, like I have these really sharp pointy scissors, so you could use scissors to cut these threads too, if you want. So let me be a little trickier, because you have to get in there, trim it, pull, but it works fine. And for myself, I'll vary what I use, you know? I don't always do the same thing every time. I use different tools, different methods, but basically it all does the same job. Okay, so it's a bit of a rant time. So, obviously not a professional video. I don't care. Anyway, one thing is that I think about a lot is, like, I've offered to teach people how to do all this for free. For free! And no one's taken me up on it. There's one fella at our club that's like starting to get interested in leatherwork and stuff. So hope springs eternal, and so maybe there's something that could happen. Anyway, it's just, I don't know. I'm like a maker, I make stuff, right? So it's really weird for me that someone wouldn't want to learn to do stuff themselves. I find that so strange. But I guess it is what it is. One, you know, as a sewer, in Toronto, I'm in Thailand now, but in Toronto, I used to sew a lot, like for film and stuff, and mostly film, TV and film. A little bit of dance theater, and almost no private stuff, almost no private work. Because people are used to having slaves sew for them. Do you know what I mean? Like literally slaves. So you say, oh, it's going to cost you blah, 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 blah. And they're like, what? I could buy that for $20 at the show. And it's just like, well, you can go freaking go buy it at the store then. Anyway, it's the rant of the sewer. And I remember a really great costume designer for dance mostly. She was a dancer herself. He says, never tell anyone you sew. Never ever tell anyone you know how to sew. You'll regret it. Okay, so I've got the whole palm taken off. Now looking at this, oops, sorry. It's the exposure, overexposure thing. What's going on here? Okay. I mean, how on earth can you figure out the palm from that mess of a tenouchi? You guys got to figure it out. But here's the thumb, I can tell. And this is like a big opening, so this should be closed up. This should be closed up. It's like, wow, crazy. Anyway, luckily, like I said, I have this. But if you don't, you're just gonna have to figure it out. And you might have to cut it. You could cut it in fabric and see if it fits your kote. If you're just doing it for the first time, that might be a good idea because fabric's a lot cheaper than a big piece of deer skin. Anyway, you just gotta figure it out and take it from there, you know. Anyway, but like I said, same hand size. This is from me. I'm just gonna use that. And somehow, it all just fits. Now, on this one, the leather was so rotted out that I couldn't even pick it out here. So I'll probably just trim that down and just leave it. What the hell, it's fine. You know what I mean? Rather than get too nitpicky. Okay, so the next step is to cut the tenouchi. Okay. One thing I was gonna say, if you're using a scalpel and you're not good with your hands, well, even if you're good with your hands, be careful because it's pretty easy just to slice the whole thing and then all of a sudden your job's got a lot bigger. So yeah, just to warn you. Sorry, I'm a little bit stuffed up today. Had a head cold all week, so my voice is a little gravelly and I'm a little bit sniffy. But I gotta get the job done. Gotta get the video made. Okay, there we go. And oh, you can see this is a Kendo Kote, really nice Myrmidon, I think. And you can see it's a synthetic filling, right? Sometimes, especially on older kote or more high end, like even this is pretty high end actually, but really high end they'll stuff it with deer hair, which I think deer hair is the best. But this works perfectly well. It's really good stuff. Anyway, so here you can see what it's made of. If it happens to be deer hide, and this, like I said, this will open up, then you gotta be careful to keep stuffing the deer hair back in and all that. Okay, next step. Okay, so I've laid my pattern down. I'm gonna trace it. Come on. I'm just gonna trace it. So that's traced. Now, but when I cut it, can you see that? Where are we now? Oh, it's really bright. Okay. When I cut it, I'm gonna probably cut here to leave a little seam allowance for sewing. It could be, and if there's any extra, I can just trim that down before I sew on the trim. So normally I would just do this, I would just eyeball it, but for the sake of you guys, it might be an idea to draw a magic line. Okay, but this one, I'm not going to add seam allowance because that's the part that goes right here. Just go in here. Now one thing with this particular material is, because it doesn't really stretch, as far as I can tell, it's also quite thick. I like a thin, like when I do my own with that chamois, I usually pick a really thin piece. I love it's protective, but the feel is really great on the chamois. Anyway, when it's thin. But the thing is, my skin chemistry doesn't eat away leather and stuff. So my kote palms last a long time, and I know how to do it again, so I can just do my own. So no problem. And so from here, I'm just gonna cut it out, and next step. Okay, so what I've done is I've done a rough cut outside the main lines, because it's gonna be easier to cut finely when it's a small piece, right? So from here, I'm gonna cut across my second line. And this one we're cutting on just the main line, the palm. Okay, good. Now the magic begins, right? We have to sew that sucker on. Now, what I recommend, because the thing is, like the kote aren't like this, right? Obviously that's not gonna fit. The kote are curved. Like we wear them and they're like this, you know what I mean? Of course, because we're grabbing something small and round. So you have to figure this out. So what I definitely recommend for everyone, and I do it myself, I'm sure the boku professors just slap that tenouchi on and just start sewing away, right? However, I recommend doing tacking stitches because it's very easy to start sewing and then it's way off balance, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew all the different spots. I'm gonna sew here at the beginning. I'm gonna sew the top of the thumb. I'll sew this and this little crook here. I'll do it again. See, if it's sewn here, you can see the difference, right? So obviously it's gonna curve, and I'm gonna tack it like that. And then I'm gonna tack it here at the end. And you might even wanna do more than just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. Like especially on this big parts, you might wanna sew in between. It's just basically a tacking stitch. I'll show you what that is right now. Alright. Okay, we're running, sorry. Okay, so you got to, I'll do a blurb about, probably put it on before this, but depending on the tools you have, there's different options, right? I'm just using a big thick needle for this. So what I'm gonna do is I have a really nice awl, which has a chisel point on it. So I'm gonna start this hole using that. It's going through a fair number of thick pieces. So I'm gonna just start that there. And it's still not going through. Okay, that should work. And there we go. So basically, I'm not even going to knot it. I'm just going to sew a bit with a tail on it. Put like 2, maybe 3 or 4 lines. Should be enough to hold it until I get sewn through it. Okay, so that's that end. Now I'm going to do, can you see this okay? Hey, any questions? Just put a question in the YouTube or whatever, and I'll get back to you for sure. Yeah, so I'm going to anchor this bottom part again. So this is, you can see, shoot. Come on. Oh, stop. Okay, good. So, like I said, if I cut that out, I'm going to find my other ankle point down here. Put a nice big hole in that. Sew it up. Now, if you're doing this and you screw it up, and there's every possibility that you will screw it up, but it's not the end of the world, right? You can unpick it and start again. Definitely do that. You want to get this right. If you don't get it right, it's going to be uncomfortable. So every time you pick it apart and redo it, you're gaining experience. And experience is a great thing. Oops, come on. What I do is I do 3 or 4 stitches, whatever makes it feel nice and solid and tight. Usually as I do the actual sewing, I will take these tacking stitches off. Okay, so the next one I'm gonna do, let's do the thumb. So the thing is, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna curve it. So, okay, that's interesting. So actually, I cut too much. I made it too big, I think. Do you see what I mean? Can you see how that's overlapping? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tack it here. I'll trim this down, and I'll tack it closer. Do you know what I mean? So just try to, as you go, yeah, just kind of adjust as you go, if that makes any sense. And what I'll do is because what you can, once you've sewed the whole thing, you could trim it all down, right? Shoot. But it's gonna make life easier if if you trim it at least close before you actually do the main sewing, then you can trim it further later. Because the main sewing is this way, not over, right? So you can still trim the leather down. And if you guys are doing that, like I just said about posing questions, for sure do that, right? Because my main goal here is to help people do stuff for themselves, right? So the next one I'm going to do is this part, in this part of the thumb. It's tricky, and it's tricky to sew as well, you know? Because you really have to get in there. Anyway. It's not that hard to do, but it's not nothing. It's not like baking cookies. Anyway, so maybe let's see now. So we're gonna need that extra. Here. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna do while I'm here, I'm gonna do a tacking point midway this time. I'm sure if there's a professional kote maker watching this, they're going, oh my god, you're so slow. Well, you know, if you only do it once a year, that's my excuse. That's my excuse. Okay, so we got that. I'm actually filming this whole thing because this is kind of an important bit. And you know what? I think this tack I did here is it's not correct. So I'm going to take that out. And I'll take this one out too because they're both not right. So what I'm going to do to try and get more fabric down at this end, so it's overexposed. At this end, I'm going to tighten this up right here and then sew it right here. See what that gets us. Yeah. So no matter what, if you're just like me and don't do this for a profession, give yourself a lot of time to do it. Put on some music or whatever keeps you calm. Come on, there we go. I need to get more thread on this one. Kendo Kote. Okay, I have to rethread that needle, so I'm going to cut the video. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so what I've done is I've tacked in some bits here I think that'll work, including this notch here. Ugh. But what's happened is, obviously, I've got too much fabric. You see that? Got too much fabric here. So I'm going to trim this initial tacking thing I did here. And just adjust that. Get that curve. To tell you that, I will say that working with real leather is so much nicer than this stuff. But it is what it is. I think, let's see if I can, I'm judging what the curve's going to be, maybe. And I'll just do it right there. Okay. Oops, someone's cutting wood. I live up in the mountains in northern Thailand. People definitely do stuff with their hands here. Just like back in Saskatchewan, Alberta, people did stuff, people fix stuff themselves, you know. That's how you do. Okay, so now the thing is that that's now too long, right? Can you see that? That's now too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack it where it should normally be, which is right about here. But I'm going to leave that. I'll trim it at the end, just in case. Throw that in there, put a new tacking stitch. Hey, if there's any Kote professionals wanting to throw in their 2 cents, please do. No ego here, right? Whatever can make everyone better, I'm all for. You can even go, whoa, you're really crap at that. I mean, okay, fine. Anyway, so that's that. You can see the curve, there's a curve in the hand. Now that I've tacked it, I'm even, especially because this is my hand size, I'm gonna put my hand in and I can get a sense of how it's going to feel when it's sewn, right? It feels okay. Again, I like real leather, but I think this will work well for the person this is for. I hope. Anyway, okay, so back in a sec. Oh, before I go, there's a couple of ways of doing the next step. Basically, it's sewing it all around, right? So, and that's sewing through here. You can do it with just a straight needle through and through. Maybe you probably need the awl with this material, or you could use a sewing awl. What would they call it? Speedy stitcher, a sewing awl, an awl that has a hole in the needle, and it basically works like a sewing machine. In a way, that's probably better because it ends up with being a more even stitch. And I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. But you've got some options. If you don't have fancy awls and stuff, you can just sew through and back, through and back, and through and back, and it'll probably do the job fine. And then later what happens is this trim comes over and you stitch that all down by hand. That's next. Okay, here we go. I've got the awl set up. Actually, yeah. Okay. One thing with this particular awl that I'm not totally happy with is the needle's quite large, right? I used to have hand awls that were really much finer. I haven't been able to find one though. But we'll see if we can make this work. Going through, I'm gonna pull this back. See that flips, that opens up there. Sew this through, come through, and basically what you've got is like a sewing machine stitch by hand. So every stitch you do, can you see how I'm not doing too small, because this all is quite, the needle's quite large. I have to give it a bit of space. And what I want to do, I'm going to come through and I want to go, yeah. with the stitching that's there. I don't want to go too far into this edge because then it's going to be hard to pull that trim back over. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to come through, we're going to open up a loop, like so. And tighten that up. The thing is, when you do it this way, when I tighten it like this, I can get it really snug. If I do it by hand, it's a little trickier. To tell you the truth, on my own, I usually just do it by hand. But I think for a lot of people, this might be a good way to go. And as you go, you have to be conscious of the fact that you're sewing on a curve, right? So here's pretty flat, but once I get past this, can you see that? Once I get this past this tacking bit, the curve increases. You see how that's like that? But the curve has to be like this. So on every stitch, I have to be conscious of that, so that when I get to this tack, it's the same place. Okay. So I'll do a few more to here, just so you can see, and then I'll cut the video and continue on. You see how I'm wrapping, I've got the awl in my hand here, I'm wrapping both threads in my hands around my fingers and tightening it like that. I wonder if these days, if they have machines that do this part when they're manufacturing. Wouldn't surprise me if they do. That's a bit high up there, but I'll just leave it. It'll be fine. Oh, there you go. Oh, don't like that. Okay, I'm gonna go. I broke a thread, so I'm gonna go back. Connect this. I'll cut the video, I have to fix this. Okay, so I'm going through a really thick part here, so I'm actually going to use my awl, because this awl is much sharper and better, smaller. I use that to do kind of a pilot hole. Actually, you know what? I think I might, just to show you, I might do part of this with this kind of awl, and then I'll do some of it just by hand stitching. Maybe once I get over here, I'll do it by hand so you can see how that works. Okay. You can see, this isn't something for most people that you can just do and throw off in half an hour, right? You need to commit some time to it. And if you're just doing it for the first time, you might need a lot of time to redo stuff. But it's definitely worth doing because Kote palms wear out and it's expensive to send them off to be done, you know. The issue for a lot of people is going to be materials, I think. But like I said, I found the chamois works really well. But the issue is always going to be how it responds to moisture, right? Like you can't use suede or some cowhide, because cowhide doesn't respond to moisture well at all. It'll just get hard on you. Deer skin is superb, right? For that, and that's why they use it. You know, in the past I've tanned my own deer hides. I traditionally tan them and hunted deer and stuff. So very familiar with the use of deer, and I've made clothing from smoked tanned deer and stuff. It's a great thing to do. But anyway, here in Thailand, I don't know anyone doing smoked tan deer hide. Anyway, there used to be a place called, I think it was called BrainTan.com in the States, and they tan deer and moose and freaking buffalo hides, I think. Really looked like really great stuff. I never ordered. Oh, actually, I ordered a tool from them. I don't know if they're still around, but it'd be worth checking out because it looked like a great resource. But you know, it's expensive, right? Like a deer hide could be, I don't know, $500, $1,000. The process of doing it by hand is very intense. Very intense. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm gonna cut the video. Hopefully that's enough. Okay, I'm back. Okay, now I'm switching. One thing I found with this, where's my, oh, shoot. Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm back. One thing I found with this awl, sewing with the awl, is I broke the thread a few times. Is it the awl that's a problem, or is it the material I'm using? Could be either or. So now I'm going to show you another technique, which is super old school. Maybe the best. One thing is, I'm going to say, sewing through here in this crook, ugh, it's a real pain in the ass. But anyway, just take your time and you'll get it done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch a hole with the awl to get this going, okay? And then I'm going to put one needle in through this side, then one needle in through this side, and then pull and pull. Dum, dum, dum. Basically, you've got the same idea as the awl, but totally by hand. One issue that can crop up when you're doing this is the needles I have are sharp, right? So it's possible when you put one through, okay, no problem, and then the other needle goes through and catches on the thread. You know what I mean? Because it's sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that through all the way and then put that one through like that. So, and boom. This is really old style cobbler type sewing. You'll see that in old pictures of shoemakers and stuff sewing this way. It might be the best way actually. I prefer doing it this way than with the awl. But I just wanted to show you how to use the awl, because some people might prefer that. Through here. Now what you can do, and what I have done, oops, ooh, really overexposed. Okay, is just go through here and back through here. That works, that'll work. If that's easier for you, do that for the first shot. This method is stronger and more secure. You got 2 lines of thread running through. And in truth, this is probably more secure than doing the awl, because again, you've got 2 threads going in opposite directions, not connected. Whereas the awl is like a sewing machine that hooks through a loop, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to do the rest of this one, this method. I'll just keep sewing it on the video so you can see how how I press my fingers in to brace it, punch a hole with the awl, go in. Oops, what did I just do? Oh, that's not good. See that? You don't want to do that. You don't want to loop over, it'll be not good. So I made a boo-boo. Go this way. Okay, there. Here. I'll keep doing this for a bit on the videos so you can see how I'm doing it. The thread I'm using is 1/2 millimeter waxed. I think it's nylon, or it could be polyester. Oh, it's polyester. So 1/2 millimeter polyester. But you could use any thread. I don't think you could get away with a really thin sewing thread, but that's all you got. You could try it. Right, and jammed in. There. Get the idea? Tighten. Punch a hole. A very slow and very meditative process. Come on. The tricky thing is, of course, catching the same hole. One of the tricky things. Okay, I think that's enough. Got the idea of that? Okay, I'll do one more, then I'll cut the video, come back when I'm near the end. Punch a hole. Twist it all around, make it a little bit bigger. This awl is really beautiful. It says, what does it say? Ivan. You can't just go to your corner store and get awls like that. It's really specialized. Had to order it online. I think it was actually a Thai shop. What's the millimeter? That doesn't say. Anyway, yeah. Okay, good enough. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you can see I have sewn the palms. For the last bit, I started here and I showed you how I do it with 2 needles, right? So that, I actually prefer doing it that way. Anyway, up to you. Up to you. Right. Okay, I'm just picking off the tacked stitches here. I don't know, should you take the tacking stitches off? I do. But up to you. Up to you. Okay. Okay, great. So you can see how this is all stitched, right? So the next step is basically to take this trim bit, pull it over, and then stitch it to the palm. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do now. I'll be back. Okay, so I got my needle and thread here. I'm going to use this big needle that I was using for the palm. I'm not sure if this will work for this, but I'll try it. Basically, all I'm doing, can you see that? Oy, oh, my knee hurts. Okay, so I'm coming through here. Some people go, I'm coming from the top and just cutting into the leather right here. Let's see, yeah, I think it'll work. Like so. Some people go here and up, other people go from the top down. So I'm going at the moment from the top here and basically down here. So I'm going to take this, going to grab a bit of the, is this going to work? Yeah, I don't know, of the palm leather or whatever. Tighten that up. See what I mean? You see that? Again, or not again, this is slightly aesthetic. You can do great big stitches. Oops, well, that's a problem. The problem is breaking the leather. Let me try, I'm going to try going from the underside. Because you're pulling it tight, but it's easy to rip the stitches out. So you have to figure out a balance. Yeah, I think that's going to work better for me. I'm going to go here. Can you see that? And as I go, I'm just snugging it up. If you pull really hard, you're going to tear the leather. So you just have to experiment to see what works. For the leather you're using, the thread you're using, and all that sort of thing. Okay. Okay. Up here. Yeah. You might be able to catch. There's holes already in the trim part. You might be able to grab some of those holes, and if you can, that's good. Now I'm using a white thread, mostly so that it's easy for the video to see. You could use any color thread. You could use a blue thread, the same color as the Kote. Or you could use bright red so you can show off your brilliant stitching. Okay, you see it? See that? See how that's going? I think, yeah. This is where doing them all the time really shows up. So the stitching quality and stuff, and the evenness. When you do any of this kind of hand stitching a lot, it really shows up as being even and aesthetically pleasing. But I think I'm doing a good job. This will work. This will be good. Snug that in. Up here. Like that, so you can see. Can you see how that looks? I don't know if it's in focus or not. Anyway, it's pretty. When you do it that way, you really don't see the stitches much, right? Okay, so I'm gonna stop the video, and I'll sew a whole bunch and catch in a little while. Ciao. Bee keeps jumping on me. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit more. It's gonna become an ASMR video now. There's a bee. There's a bee around me. Don't know what it wants. You see, okay? I mean, one thing when you do stuff like this, instead of just getting slaves to do it for you, it's so satisfying, you know, to do this kind of work yourself. Really great. Get away from me. Geez, you wouldn't want to have a bee allergy and live up in this part of the world, I'll tell you. This looks just like a honeybee or something. But they got some serious wasp action too. Oh my god. I've had to break up. Good look at you. Had to break up more than a few wasp nests by the house, and boy, it's a tricky. See, look at that. Get away from me. Pretty good, eh? What do you think? Should I apply for a job? No. Do you think I'd be wanting to do this every day? I don't think so. Anyway, I'm gonna cut the video and continue on. Okay. One thing I was gonna say that for aesthetic reasons, taking a stitch close to the edge of this trim stuff, like right there. Oh, very nice. But you have to be careful when you tighten it. It's gonna be really easy to rip. But you can, I'm gonna take the stitch. I'm gonna take the stitch in further into the leather, past those, like say right there. Can you see how that's, can you see that? I don't know. That's farther in, so there's more leather behind it to hold it. The only thing is that you'll end up seeing the stitch more. So if you care about that, that's what you can do. Also, here's the flip side of that. So a longer stitch will have more leather behind it and perhaps be stronger. However, an argument could be made that the less stitch showing, the stronger it will be, because that stitch is less likely to get worn through, etc., etc. Decide on your own. Okay, so what have we got here? Okay, so I'm just in the last bit of sewing this trim on. Now if you're doing this takes some time. Just be patient, take your time. Through here can be tricky, but anyway, just do your best and away you go. So I'm just doing this last bit on the video and I'll finish her up. Getting low on thread. I think I have enough. Can you see that okay? It's kind of, there's some thickness here, so it's going to be, the stitches are going to be a little bit more visible. That's okay. And when you're sewing, the thread tends to get sort of twisted on itself, so you can just untwist that every now and then. Ah, shoot. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Slip that in. I feel like this is a bit thick, so I'm gonna just trim this down a bit. Using the old scalpel. Yeah, it's a little bit, but it should help. almost done. Okay, and do this. I don't know, I'll just knot it or something. I can't wait for me. A couple of wraps. And knot it. Okay, that'll do. That will do. Okay, let's tilt this up. Hello, hello. Okay, so here we go. One Kote palm. See how it fits in the hand. It's okay. The thing is with this synthetic stuff, I don't think it has any give, but I guess time will tell. But it should do the job and hopefully last a lot longer. But for me, doing deer skin or the chamois is really better, really good. Anyway, so that's done. Yay, good. Phew. The next job I'll do it in a separate video, is this. I'm not doing a whole other palm again. You can see this has been patched up. It's a real dog's breakfast. So I just told my friend Lana, I said, look, I'll just patch this as part of a video as well. So basically I'm just going to throw a patch on here and a patch on here and I guess a patch here as well. Ugh. Anyway, it is not ideal, guys. It's totally not ideal. But if patching works better for you, if that's easier, then I guess do that. You can also, like, I did these patches. Anyway, you see these stitches on the edge here? That's me just shooting right through, right? Not taking the binding off or anything. Just you could do a whole palm that way. It's pretty trashy, but you could do it and it would work. Do you know what I mean? If you don't want to take the time to take off this binding bit. Anyway, next video, patch job. Okay, ciao. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we go with the patch. So this is the patch here, and my plan is to sew it on the outside first. I'm just gonna go right through. This is nasty shit, man. This is not like, this would get you fired from a bogo shop, I'm sure. But it will work, and if you're not good at sewing, it makes life a little easier. It'll do the job though, okay? So let's just tilt this down, and let's see what we can get going. Actually, I'll pause it, because I have to thread my needle. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna assume I'm gonna need to use my awl for this, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm assuming so. Whoosh. Okay. Now, as with doing the palm, I need to maintain this curve, right? You don't want to sew it flat, so that then when you actually hold the shanai, it's just going to get all wrinkled up on you. Okay? So, where am I? There. Okay. So I knotted the thread, but it slipped through. We'll just do this. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. So I'm doing a couple things today. I'm sewing, fixing kote, and smacking bees off me. And like I said, this is not a part of the world you want to be in, be allergic to bees. That's for damn sure. You see that okay? Every stitch, I'm conscious of the curve of the palm. I actually made this patch bigger than it needed to be, but in this case, it's not going to hurt to have more coverage. You still see that okay? I'm actually filming this whole thing pretty much. Anyway, you get the idea, right? That's basically what I do. And then this part I'll just do a kind of overhand stitch, I guess you could call it. It's easy to, in the dark, this dark blue, it's easy to miss a punched hole. Anyway, I'm going to reiterate one more time. This is not the ideal way to go about this, but it will get the job done. And it seems like for a lot of people, if the palm is just too much to deal with, maybe this is a good option. Unless you want to send it out to be done, that's fine. That's really good actually. Keep someone in a job, professionally done, all that. Excellent. Okay. Just go through one more time. You still see? Oh. Don't know. Hang on. Okay. Just had a low battery indication. Okay, so this. So I've done all the bits, the sewing on the outside here. Now basically I'm just gonna do an overhand stitch through the palming. It's a bit tricky, right? Because you have to kind of duck in there and stuff. Let's see if I can do this with just the thimble. I can find my thimble. Okay, anyway, basically, I'm gonna come through here. Just catch a bit here. Nope. Anyway, I'm going to cut the video now. You can kind of get the idea, I think. You're just going to sew it up, knot it off, and then you'll be done. Got any questions? Put them in the question area, comment area, and I will attempt to answer. Okay, hang on. Oops. Okay. Ciao. See ya.